Here a month or so ago, the council asked us to report to you a possible phasing development plan where we might go forward with development of the Blackbird Crossing Trail Station and do whatever work that we could in-house to save money and to actually get this thing going. And so here we are, and give you just a quick update or refresher of where this is at. You can see the Empire Mall, and just straight across the street, there's the old Tidyman's building, Paradise Path, and it's just right there. And from the pathway looking across to the, East Side Marketplace, you can see right where we'll construct this. Looking east on the trail, from the trail, you see a little bit of topography of what we need to deal with here. The station would be more toward the southern end. And aerial view, just to show you how it will kind of fit onto that, the old road bed there. Just a quick summary up front. On the present funding status, we have on hand current donations of just a little over $7,200. We have a pledge from the Latah Trail Foundation for...
Margaret, you want to introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are?
Sorry. Okay. I'm Margaret Dibble. I'm president of the board of the Latah Trail Foundation, and I was asked several meetings ago what the Latah Trail Foundation might hold, and I was assured there's no commitment there. So, yeah, we could probably come up with $2,000. We're not going to come up with $2,000 until we see some progress on it. We sort of have an agreement on in principle. We could probably do that, but to call it a pledge is maybe a little strong.
Well, Margaret, during that conversation that we had here a while back, that's exactly what was said, because we wanted to see something happen with that money. And for the audience out here, there's been money in this account for a long time. And so we're going to try to do something to take the funds that are there. It's not going to be as much as we want, but that's what we plan on doing, because we want to make something happen with that this summer. So thank you, but that's exactly how it was. And Dwight, you can explain what we're going to do, so Margaret will know.
All right. Well, remove that $2,000, and or as a maybe. And we also, if you'll recall, Mr. Thompson recently passed away, and there was a memorial request out to the friends and families to donate money toward trees to go along that area, along the pathway. And talking to family, we just received about $1,100. This is in addition to more, but just recently that they were happy for us to use this money toward the plantings and trees that would go directly around this facility. So, like I said earlier, most of this work would be done in-house. Work by the staff will take place as time and funding permits. We don't have enough staff to just drop everything and do this. We have to do our other job and work this in as we can, but we think it's doable. Phase 1 would take place this fall. Phase 2, hopefully this spring as funding allows. And Phase 3 as funding allows. And as you'll see as we go through this, some of Phase 3 could happen just about any time. And of course, along with this would be concentrated efforts to raise more funding for this, including the Latah Trail Foundation. And so this would go towards signs. We would use social media, et cetera, to try to raise these funds. Phase 1, this would be the work that we would try to do this fall. Of course, we have permitting, and this has already been submitted. We're just waiting on word back. Verbally, we feel confident that there won't be any issues with this. Earthwork, include erosion control and clearing the area and adding in some extra rock. We have to have a culvert extension to that. And In-house, our expenses, and this is the dollars, not the staff time cost, would be about $1,260, and we're estimating about 120 staff hours to do Phase 1 this fall. Phase 2 be this next spring, summer, providing we've got the funding, working in the water, trenching the drinking fountain area, electrical work, flat work, which is the concrete, and the estimate was about $18,000 hard cash and about 300 staff hours. Phase 3, and this one's kind of the loosey one, and it all just depends on the timing of some of the others, and that would be the topsoil, all that, the final finishing touches. Benches, things like that are popular with the donations. We'll keep trying for those. And then, of course, at the end, this one, about $10,000, not including the art piece. We don't know what that is yet, and about another 160 staff hours. And with this, some of this, there could be some donated labor in there as well. So that staff, you could conceivably cut those hours down. Just as a reminder, this is the trail station out in Pullman, and granted, ours would look a lot better.
Well, we'll see after
a better
Phase 3.
name, just all those things. But anyway, this was the concept that we were shooting for. This was the concept that came out, that was approved, a few years ago. And, of course, Phase 1 is basically trying to get this part at least all established as far as the gravel, get the buildup that we have to do right around these far edges, and get that part done so that has some time to settle, and basically it just sets the groundwork for the rest of the project. And that's what we would try to get done this fall.
Yep.
That's what I've got. You wanted to report, that's our plan, and I hope that meets with your satisfaction. I think it's doable, and we can get this thing going. Once people see something happening, especially Latah Trail Foundation, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to donate some more money.
Is Margaret still here? I can't. Okay, Margaret. Well, we'll hold his feet to the fire and see what Phase 1 does. How's that sound?
And that's what I have, if you have any questions.
Questions for Dwight. Thank you very much, Dwight, for that report. And one of the things, folks, we've had that money, I don't know how long, in our budget just sitting there. We've had people that have donated wanting to know what we're going to do with it. And so this is how this thing started. Well, let's get something going on it so we can build from there. So that's the direction we're headed. Thank you very much, Dwight.
Thank you.
Now we will move on to item number 7, the anticipated request from the ice rink for Hamilton funds. Gary Reedner will do the presentation, so we will move forward with that.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you might guess from the crowd in the room tonight, the main event tonight is the request from the Moscow Ice Rink Association for pledge or commitment of Hamilton funding for construction of an ice rink. As is stated in the background that's in your packets, I'll just recite that for everyone. The Palouse Ice Rink Association operates an ice rink located at Latah County Fairgrounds for the past 15 years. PIR is a not-for-profit IRS 501c3. The current ice rink is a fabric-covered structure that is nearing the end of its useful life. The PIR is in process of obtaining funding for the construction of a new permanent structure ice rink to be located at the current site and with an estimated cost of $3.6 million. As the council knows, that current ice rink is on land that is owned by Latah County at the Latah County Fairgrounds and is leased under a 50-year agreement to the Ice Rink Association. PIR is engaged in a fundraising effort to obtain funding to construct the proposed ice rink and has approached the mayor and city council to request participation from the city in the form of money from the Hamilton Fund. Currently, the Hamilton Fund has a balance of approximately $2.9 million. The Hamilton funds are restricted for use by the terms of Bob Hamilton's bequest to the City of Moscow that the funds be used for the benefit of the Parks and Recreation Department, to be used as much as possible for the benefit of young children. Previous expenditures from the Hamilton Fund approved by City Council have included construction and operations costs of the Hamilton Indoor Rec Center and participation in the construction costs of the Moscow School District community playfields, as well as an initial $165,000 commitment to the original Palouse Ice Rink Association for the ice rink that you see at the fairgrounds at this time, and also participated in another 2 years after that for repairs of the chiller at that facility. So with that, you have in your packets a letter from Mark McGuire, who's the president of PIR, requesting that $1 million worth of funding. This is the first time, other than the initial $165,000, that a request has been fully considered by the council to take public funds and transfer them, in essence, or commit them to a private organization, in this case, a 501c3 nonprofit. So with that, there are additional things that the council needs to consider in considering the request. As I've talked to Bob Stout and Tony Mangini, two of the representatives of the ice rink, we've talked about some of the conditions that may be put on this funding, and I've listed some of those in the packet, and I'll go through those a little bit. Tonight, it is my hope that as the council considers the request, that if the council has questions, that the request will be considered. Staff will be given direction on continuing discussions with the ice rink regarding what those conditions, under which conditions, if the council decides to commit funding, under which conditions that funding would be granted. Some of those conditions include, number one, the amount considered. You saw in the request from Mr. McGuire that they're requesting $1 million of Hamilton funds. When those funds would be available, and in a situation like this, sometimes it's referred to as capstone funding. A fundraising effort will occur, and some corporation or some charitable organization comes in, provides the funding to put the organization over the top for the construction, and that way you get good positive publicity. As I've discussed with Bob Stout, the city, at least it would be my recommendation, that if the council is going to commit these funds, that enough conditions are placed on the funding that it does not leave the city's coffers until the project is for sure going to move ahead. By example, the council a couple of weeks ago considered a request by Sojourners Alliance for funding to continue operations of their resident facility, and the council at that time committed $12,500 contingent and on condition that Sojourners were able to raise the other $112,500. So again, when public monies are committed to a non-public purpose, the entity has to be very careful, the government has to be very careful that those funds are well spent. Secondly, conformance with the mandates of the Hamilton bequest. I cited you the section of Bob Hamilton's will that indicates that the funds that can be used out of this fund need to be used as much as possible for the benefit of young children. Looking at the business plan and discussions that have been had between the ice rink, council leadership, and the mayor, I believe Tony's going to talk about how the ice rink will be made available to the young people of Moscow, and that is something that will also have to be considered and should be the subject of some negotiation so that that time is quality time for the youth of Moscow. Time, of course, in the middle of the night or when the kids are in school probably isn't going to meet the mandates that are necessary under the bequest. And then because, again, PIR is a 501c3 private nonprofit, that the facility is located upon public land pursuant to a 50-year lease from Latah County. One also has to consider that PIR as a corporation has a legal life just like a human being, and that legal life could end, they could cease operations, in which case the city has placed $1 million of public fund in a facility that may not be available for public use. Now, if you read the lease from the county, there is a provision that upon the termination of the lease, the property as well as the improvements revert to Latah County. So it may be something that we need to discuss with Latah County. I've not had that discussion with Tony or the ice rink, so we can continue to do that. But illustrating that it is going to take some time to consider those conditions. Any additional conditions the council would like to explore. And then it would be my suggestion that once that is done, we continue to flesh that out. Staff could be tasked with putting together a resolution, which is an official statement of council policy, upon which the conditions that the funds would be made available. In addition, one has to consider the time frame of this funding, how long PIR expects it will take to raise the money to construct the ice rink, how long the council is willing to commit a certain amount of money for that. So those are all considerations that I'd ask the council to consider tonight as they listen to PIR's presentation.